Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Brienne Beebe. I'm a high school math teacher and I have a few minutes where I might be able to actually film this video. So I just wanted to sit down and just get right to it. Now bear with me because we are expecting a storm, so the lighting already has and probably will continue to change throughout the video, so just bear with me. It is what it is. But today I wanted to film a video that has been on my mind for about a year. Last school year, at the end of like May, June 2021, right in there, I started thinking ahead to the next school year, and primarily I was focused on my maternity leave, but in the back of my mind, I knew that there were things that I picked up during this time period of virtual teaching, distance teaching, whatever you want to call it. I knew that there were things that I would want to carry forward into future school years, and I wanted to share about that. But I waited till now to do it, and honestly, I feel like it's better because now I've had not a normal experience. Nothing about 2021, 2022 school year has been normal, but I knew that at least I'd have that experience of doing these things while still having students like actually physically in the room with me. So I just wanted to share these things that I want to keep using, keep doing going forward. The first one is Google Classroom. So my school has now kind of required us to continue using Google Classroom, at least for the time being. Right now we have students that go remote periodically when they're quarantined, if that happens. So we've continued using Google Classroom, but honestly, I wanted to continue to use it anyway. Before we had a pandemic, what I would do with notes and things that were filled in was post them onto a website. And that got really like messy and tricky. I don't even remember precisely how I did it, but we had notes from everything that we'd done throughout the school year up on this website that I had that I created through Google Sites, which the way I remember it from back then is nothing like what it looks like now. Google Sites is a lot nicer now than it used to be, but that's where the notes were housed and everything. I really like having it in Google Classroom because I'm able to schedule it in advance. Thank you, Google Classroom, for finally letting us schedule to multiple classes. But I schedule everything in advance so that when students are absent and they want to know what we're doing, it's already there. In fact, I get really annoyed now when they email me and say, can you send me what we're doing? I'm like, it's in Google Classroom, just like it has been for this whole year. But anyway, I like having everything up so it's scheduled, ready to go, and then I can upload the notes that we took in class so that way students, whether they were absent or whether they need reinforcement, it's all there for them. And for many of the same reasons, I want to continue incorporating lesson videos. This I have not kept up with this year. It's been a lot of, I already have a video for that recorded. I'm going to include it when I set up everything in Google Classroom for that lesson. But I want to make sure that I still do lesson videos, whether I'm finding them online or using ones that I've already recorded. I feel like just so much easier for students. So if they are absent, there's a lesson video. If I'm absent and I want my students to still make progress on the content that we're learning, I can send them the lesson with a lesson video and like practice kind of like what we did last year. So I at least have that to fall back on. But this year I've not recorded any new lesson videos. I wish I had, I just didn't have the time, but this year's been kind of crazy. But going forward, I think lesson videos are something that I would definitely want to incorporate, especially for like my higher level classes like pre-calc and calc. They kind of need more reinforcement with a lot of the lessons. And I've been sending them to other videos that I find on YouTube. Sometimes those disappear, so it would be really helpful if I had my own videos that I could use for them. The next thing that I'd want to continue using comes with a caveat: digital activities. I like certain activities digitally. It's a lot easier, or it allows for better feedback. So the big one for me is sorting activities. I love incorporating sorting activities into my classes, and before the pandemic it was like literally cut and paste. And that was fine, but when it's online, it's a lot easier because I don't have to like wander around the classroom and continually check in on students as they're going before they glue it down. You want to try and catch them so that they're not stuck with a mistake. But when it's online, it's like they can sort things out, submit it to me to say that they're done. Then I can look at it and give them feedback and have them fix it. And it's a lot easier to go back and forth when it's digital in that sense. And so I've loved having my activities digitally. However, that's been difficult this year. Our students, and it really depends on the classes, a lot of them got Chromebooks to use for the school year and they were lost. Like when I came back from maternity leave at the end of November, a lot of kids were like, yeah, we don't have our Chromebooks anymore. Like we lost it. And my school stopped loaning them out for kids that didn't have their Chromebook. So they had a system set up where they would give out a Chromebook to kids that came to school without it, and they stopped doing that because they weren't being returned. So that happened. So certain classes, I have students that are a lot less responsible. We haven't done digital activities since. Everything's been on paper if I could help it. And then my other classes that are more responsible, I've continued giving them digital activities, and it just kind of depends. But if I have something that I created for like last year or the year before that I really liked activity-wise and it's digital, then I just went ahead and used that. Otherwise, I was doing like paper practice. Because sometimes you just need a good, simple worksheet. And the last thing that comes to mind right now, I feel like this is going to be like an ongoing list. But the last thing that's on my mind right now that I want to keep using in the future is digital subplans. I feel like these all kind of like overlap really nicely with each other. So it's just so much easier, especially if you have like that last minute emergency where you want to just like quick get something up for students to do. You can do that really easily in Google Classroom. Like I said, I'll have lesson videos. I have activities that I've done in the previous year that I can just put up there for Subwork, and it just works out really well. It's easy to track, like especially if it's a Google form where it timestamps when they turn it in. I mean, the same's true for other Google activities too, but it just makes it so that I don't have to worry about making copies or sending someone something to make copies of. I don't have to worry about a lot of things. I can just throw it up in Google Classroom and it's there for my students. But as I mentioned before, there's like pros and cons. Like certain classes won't have their Chromebooks. I can't really rely on them to do Subwork if it's digital, so I still have to have copies. So it's like you win some, you lose some. I just wanted to share this now. I just remember last summer on Instagram, there was a lot of polls from teachers to other teachers asking, what are you doing this year? Are you going to go back to paper? Are you going to stick with digital? What are you going to use for your students? And I just remember like I couldn't really wrap my mind around what this year was going to look like because I knew that it just was not going to be normal still. So I remember I kind of like abstained from a lot of those polls. I was like, I don't know, I'm not going to answer. And I ended up actually asking my students what they prefer when I returned from my maternity leave. And I'm like, this is so much better than me just trying to decide that over the summer. And I feel like that's why I also like the fact that I waited a year to do this video is my school made some decisions for me, like certain things. Like if I didn't want to use Google Classroom anymore, I don't have that choice. Like I have to use it. Luckily, I chose that I would have wanted to use it anyway. I'm sorry that sentence didn't make sense, but you know what I mean. Like it was worth waiting to really solidify some of these ideas. I hope this video was helpful in some way, but I completely understand if it wasn't. But that's everything I wanted to share, and as always, thanks for watching.